Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We're back with another edition of the Team Building Podcast, where you learn how to build a dominant real estate team in your market. This is the operations-focused episode for this month. We've got a really fantastic guest who has a lot to share on the role of an executive assistant / operations manager on your team, how to integrate those personalities together. We'll even get into salary and some stuff that is not discussed in most other venues and may be overlooked a lot of times. So if you are a mega agent, this is obviously a great episode for you to learn how to deal and more closely work with your operations staff. But if you are an operations manager specifically, or a marketing director, or an executive assistant, or if you are just an assistant to a rainmaker agent and you are essentially the team, you'll find something in this episode for you. And so let's first welcome in our own operations manager, Kevin McGowan from our flagship office in Omaha. Kevin, what is up?
Hey, Matt. How's it going? Super excited with our guest today. I think we're going to have a lot of great content for our listeners.
Yeah, that's right. So we're going to shut up and we're just going to let her talk the whole time.
Let's do it.
I'm going to take a break, actually. I'm going to go run to the restroom, and I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Anyway, so our guest is Margaret Smith out of the Seattle area. Margaret, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
We're doing awesome. So fill in everybody just a little quick background, who you are, where you are, and what you do.
Okay. My name is Margaret Smith. I'm the executive assistant for Picket Street, like you said, out of Bothell, Washington, which is just north of Seattle. And I've been with the team for about 4 years now. It's an awesome experience, awesome team, great people. My background is actually in social work and art, so I bring a little different perspective to the team. And I'm just really excited to be here and talk about operations, everything all about it.
That's right.
Very cool.
So you stepped into this role how long ago?
It'll be 4 years in November.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about what you mean by the term executive assistant, because you teach a class for KW about this, and you've been traveling a little bit and giving this class in terms of how to deal with what you call an EA. But explain to everybody what you consider an executive assistant.
An executive assistant is there's many different titles for it. They actually talk about that in a lot of different books. There can be over, I think, 165 different titles for that type of role. And so what I like to do is add a lot of clarity to it, because I think there's a lot of fuzzy lines there. And so what Jesse, the team leader of Picket Street, Jesse Moore, and I have done, have really spent the last couple of years talking about specifically what my job is about and what the description is and what the title is and everything. And so I am the main recruiter screener for the team for all positions. So I spend a lot of my time marketing, working on the big picture items for the team, the team retreats, events, client events. And then I also think about the culture and how to continue to help people grow within the team. And so the executive assistant title / operations manager, I also specifically assist Jesse with whatever he needs inside and outside the team as well. So it's constantly evolving, and I like that. It's a good challenge. But I also really like to, in my class, talk to people about how to add clarity to their job, because I think that's where a lot of confusion and difficult conversations can happen.
Yeah, agreed. And Kevin, sounds very similar to what your daily activity is, except I think if Jeff asked you to go get a bottle of water or pick up his dry cleaning, you'd tell him to go pound sand.
Yeah, we're at that point now where, I think it started off that way, but no, it's developed into a little bit more now there where, we have a couple other assistants that might be doing that. But yeah, just like Margaret, pretty perfect definition, operations manager, jack of all trades, marketing / this / treasurer, whatever it might be. So yeah, that's perfect. And, I myself have been in that role for about 5.5 years now too. So between Margaret and I'm sure we've got tons of great content here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just want to make sure we clarify. So when Margaret, you speak of an EA, people know it's literally kind of anybody. It can apply, and the principles that you're going to talk about apply to pretty much anyone that's in operations on the admin side, but especially to an operations manager, that jack of all trades position. So let's get into that a little bit, because I think they're always looking for that person that they can turn over a lot of things to, especially if you're a rainmaker agent. You're looking for that one key hire. You want someone that's super reliable. They're very systems oriented and all these things, but you also need someone that can handle your personality, and you need someone that is self-starting enough to where you can tell them, hey, this is the problem that I need solved, and they have enough to where they can go out and help you solve it instead of just taking a system you've already built and run it. And I think that's where a lot of rainmakers get into trouble. So from your perspective, what do you look for? Like if you were to hire if you wanted to step out of what you're doing and Jesse said, hey, I want you to hire your replacement,
Yeah.
what would you be looking for?
Well, I actually have somebody on the bench, and that's what I've spent the last 2 years looking for. And
Nice.
what I tell people, and I think we talk about this in a lot of different real estate classes when they talk about hiring, when you come across someone who's an A player, it doesn't happen very often. And so my job is to basically get to the point where I don't ever have to talk to Jesse or ask him for anything throughout. If I've not seen Jesse in a day, it means it's a good day. And not because I don't like him or enjoy hanging out with him, but it means that I've done my job and I've gone above and beyond. And I've built our relationship over the last 4 years. I've really worked hard at exceeding his expectations. Because once I do that and I build that trust with him, he can hand off anything to me, and he now no longer worries about any piece of the business that he's given to me. And so the person that I look for is someone who not only has, who's not only detail oriented and has great follow through, but has a particular kind of attitude, a very positive attitude, and someone who is just a go-getter and has their trajectory over their work career has shown that they are motivated and driven, and that they want it as bad as I do, and which is pretty hard to match. But so that said, I've interviewed a lot of different admin candidates, and I rarely come across people who I feel are qualified enough to hand off to people that I know are looking for EAs in the area. It's just, I think it's a real lack in our industry, and so I've been really focused the last couple of years on reaching out to people in law firms and banks and in areas of business like that where I seem to find the best candidates.
Love it.
Because I really would like to up the game. I think it changes people's businesses in a dramatic way.
Yeah, I think that's and just in the course of like getting involved with expansion and stuff with Jeff and our team, been thinking a lot about that. I think that applies as well to the sales side. I think that we have a lot of the struggles that we have in real estate as far as attracting and retaining the right people comes from the fact that we are choosing from a self-selected pool of licensed agents who are drawn into the business for specific reasons and not always the best reasons. And now with the rise of teams, we're getting more systematic in the way that we are approaching business, and we are trying to work with and choose our staff from a pool of people who have essentially said, I don't want a full-time corporate job where I have to show up from 8 to 5 and be accountable to anybody.
And I don't want a boss, and I just want to run things how I want to. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like the next step for us for expansion and for a lot of teams that are into expansion is to start to do that. So I love that you're finding and you're giving specific
Look in the outside.
fields.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So,
actually,
in terms of recruiting, like, yeah, well, how are you finding them? When you say you're reaching out to people in those industries, how are you reaching out?
So one of the things I've done is I've started a networking group, and so we meet quarterly, and it's just that I've only met probably 3 times. And then I use my network. So I grew up in the Seattle area and all my family's here, and I use that network. And so I specifically reach out to 2 of my cousins who work in those industries, and will ask them for recruits when I'm interviewing. And then specifically Picket Street, we have a history of hiring people that have not been in the real estate industry or have been in it for less than 6 months, specifically because they don't have those bad habits. And so, like the guy that we're looking at in San Francisco as an expansion partner has been in real estate for about 3 weeks. So
perfect. He's not tainted yet.
Yeah,
no. Yeah.
All right, so let me ask you this, getting back to the personality of an EA. In terms of the DISC profile, are you a big fan of the new KPA? Are you a bigger fan of the AVA? And what are some of those behavioral and values that you look for in your EA?
Sure, yeah, that's actually been a huge conversation piece for Jesse and I over the last 4 years. I'm a big fan of everything around personal development. So my DISC is SIC, and my AVA, for those people that know, is a 2396 with an asterisk on the 9. And so what Jesse and I have done is we each participate in all of those different assessments, and we read, as a team, we read a book, and we talk about it every week at our team meeting. And it's just a constant conversation. And what I like about them is that it brings up new pieces to the conversation, and it helps us explore, because Jesse and I are complete opposites, absolute opposites. And I'm sure there's nobody that annoys him more than I do, and there's probably nobody that annoys me more, but for good reason, because we think so, he jokes about it in the class with me, he co-teaches it with me, and he talks about how I speak a different language, and he's there to interpret for me, or to interpret for the agents. And it's true, because I don't think like him, and I shouldn't, because I'm running a completely different part of the business. I'm not a salesperson. And so the ABA and the KPA, I love the KPA. I think what the KPA did for me is it brought out, I'm not a high D. I don't appear to be very aggressive. But in my personal life, I've started my own photography business. I got my master's in social work. I've accomplished certain things that doesn't appear in my personality. And so I just think it's really important to have those conversations, because with someone like me, I'm not going to be the type of person that's going to bring up things that I've done in my life, or I'm not going to push my agenda forward. And I think you have to have those conversations to find out as much as you can about the people that you're working with, because there's a lot that I bring to the table that people wouldn't necessarily think I did before that.
Yeah, just based on the disc profile. Yeah.
And I was just going to kind of say too, even just before we started recording this podcast, we were kind of talking about your class and stuff like that, in terms of saying, you just kind of wanted more. And plus with your other side businesses that you're doing and all that kind of stuff, you seem to definitely be like a driver, which is definitely a big piece of the D, in my opinion, in terms of the DISC test, So you said that you're an ISC, but I think you probably have more D than you would think, because of just that driving personality and go-getter and, getting to the next thing kind of type thing. That's high D personality to me. And I know on the DISC test, there's, what you would be in terms of your personal life versus at work and all that kind of stuff too. But, I think for an operations manager for a team such as you and I, and this is probably going to be loaded, and I've never said it before, so I hope I don't discourage anyone by saying it, but I think what we're really looking for is a DISC. We are looking for a DISC, You want the driver, somebody that you don't always want to have to manage, because let's face it, none of the rainmakers want to have to micromanage, right? They just want to offload it and, let you take care of it from there. You want somebody who can talk to people. You want somebody who's systems oriented, and then also somebody who can, has that kind of sharing, caring, more emotional side, especially if you're in charge of people, other people of your admin staff or whatever that might be. You're a lot of times an intermediary between a rainmaker, all the way down to the lowest producing agent, So it's kind of across the board. If you could find a 50% DISC across the board, there you go, you got it. But I know that just doesn't really exist very much. And like I said, I don't want to discourage anybody if they're just saying a high SC. I'm not saying you have to have DI in there as well, but I think it kind of comes full circle, wrapping back around into looking into other industries for that position, if the average person coming into real estate doesn't tend to be a DISC. So,
yeah.
All right, so moving on from the behavioral stuff and into just the practicalities of this. So when you talk about empowering the staff, empowering the executive assistant, let's say you have someone with the right personality profile, they have the right behavior, so you bring them on, you're onboarding them and things like that. What do you tell mega agents in terms of what to expect on that, riding that line between empowering them versus turning over things so quickly that they don't actually get done and they don't learn the systems correctly? What's that balance for you?
Well, I try to help them by giving them a bit of a timeline for how it went for me, because not knowing anything about real estate and not being part of a for-profit business before was really different. And so it really took me about 2 years to really feel like I could get to the point where I made decisions without asking for Jesse's opinion on certain things. Yeah. And so that first year was me jumping in head first. There was no other admin support in the business. We did 203 transactions that my second year, and that was really overwhelming. And I mean, there was a lot of that was where actually a lot of the tough conversations came between us, because he didn't think he needed to hire another admin, and I was like, this is not the business for me if this is what is expected of a salaried person. Yeah. And so he actually put me in touch with one of Gary Keller's assistants, Mindy Haggard, and I talked to her on the phone, and then she called Jesse, and she was like, you need to hire someone or you're going to lose.
Or you're going to have to hire your replacement that's going to be quitting. For you.
Yes. And so that was that push and pull that a lot of people talk about. Like, it was me pushing back on Jesse pushing back on me, until we came to the realization that we needed to hire someone. Well, I knew that, but he came to that realization a little bit later. And so, and giving them a timeline a little bit and showing them, like, I had to spend that first year learning the business, learning the systems, seeing where the holes are. So I really believe in when you have a new hire, or myself when I'm learning something, it's my job to sit back and shut my mouth and listen. And I spent that first year listening to Jesse, learning about the business before I came in and made any sort of calls on what should change or what should happen. And so helping agents who are highly impatient understand that you need to if you have the right person, just give them a little bit of time. If you don't see changes happening by the end of that first year, then I would be a little bit worried. But by the end of that first year, I was already making an impact on the systems and on the processes and all those different pieces of the business. So I try to give them an idea of what the timeline looks like so that it's realistic.
Interesting. Okay. So let me ask you this. If you had, knowing what you know now, do you feel like being licensed and doing, what the typical agent does, 5, 6 deals a year, would that have helped you that much if you had had that experience before you came in and became Jesse's assistant?
No, so I don't have my license. I'm not a licensed admin, never have been. And I honestly, because I'm not in the real estate business, I'm in the business of building the business. Yeah. And so as long as I know the basics of what's going on so that I can translate that in our marketing, I don't need to be in the day-to-day stuff at all. No.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's I think the what we're all trying to, or what I've noticed that Rainmakers try to shortcut is they keep selecting people from real estate, thinking that because they've done 5 deals or 10 deals or whatever, that it gives them some sort of huge leg up, and they'll have to somehow train them less, and they'll be able to kind of hit the ground running. And I personally don't think that's necessarily the case, but it's nice to hear you confirm that you're able to just come in and kind of hit the ground running with no knowledge of the real estate industry beforehand. And I guarantee you, like, doing 200 deals that first year with Jesse, that's all the reps you probably needed to learn pretty quick what was going on. But let's talk about the relationship between you and Jesse. So what's the daily interaction like? You talked about the fact that if you don't talk to him for a day, that's a pretty good day. So what's the structured interactions like? How often are you meeting, and what types of decisions are you guys making together when you do come together?
Yeah, sure. We have so right now currently we have 6 people on the team, or actually 7 people, and 2 virtual assistants. And so we meet as a team every Tuesday from 10 to 11:30. And then we have an ops meeting, which is myself, Jesse, and Katie Silver, who's the lead buyer's agent. And we meet every Monday for an hour. And then Jesse and I meet every Friday for my 411, which is our weekly check-in. And so that's the structured times. Beyond that, it would be if Jesse's gone for any length of time and he comes back, it's always a good thing if he and I meet for at least 15 minutes the first day he gets back. But otherwise, he's not a fan of schedules, which is many agents are not fan of schedules or having any sort of a planned event.
Don't tie me down, Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've really learned, and it's just not again happened over time. I've learned how and when to approach him with certain things. If I need to, I'll build a little list of if I have actual questions that I need answered from him, and I'll work that around times when he's in the office. But he's typically here Monday through Friday between like 10 to 4. If he's in the office, it's in the morning, and then in the afternoons he's out on listing appointments and meetings with other parts of the business. So beyond those structured times, one of my goals again is to make it. I want my position to flow so seamlessly that there's just I don't know. My job is to create less work for him. And so when I come to him with questions, it's usually at one of those structured times. I just try not to do anything in between those, just because I think it's more efficient. So
and your goal is to make it so that you guys don't even have to meet, because then you're doing your job well.
Yeah. And as long as we're meeting at the ops meeting, the team meeting, and my personal weekly meeting, then I'm good to go. Because if I didn't, I do think there's a lot of agents that don't meet at all with their admin staff, and I think that weekly meeting is super important because I have to continue to get things from his brain that he's not vocalizing, so I can understand where he's thinking the business is growing next, and what to help me anticipate more of his needs moving forward.
So what kinds of things do you guys go over in terms of when you have those weeklies? Are you coming up with action plans, calls to action kind of type thing for, you know, the next week, and then you kind of circle back around to that and see how those things went for that week? Or is it just kind of more if you have questions, or, you know, I mean, what's a little, just in some surface details, what are the kinds of things that you guys typically go over in that meeting?
Yeah, so in my personal 411 with him, we have a 411 layout sheet, which talks about my annual goals, my monthly goals, and my weekly goals. And I really take charge of that myself. And so I come up with the next action steps. He goes over what happened last week and if I accomplished what my goals were for last week. And then we talk about hot topic items. And some of those ones that typically come up are hires that we're currently trying to make or looking for. A lot of the bigger projects, like we have a client event in November coming up for our annual pie giveaway, things like that, I typically just take care of myself. If there's an issue with a relationship with a vendor or something, I might bring it up at that point. Any issues with anybody on the team, anything that's come up that we need to talk about, we talk about there. It's usually a lot people related.
Yeah.
Perfect. Not so much project anymore.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So, and then in terms of like the decisions that you guys are making together, you said more in terms of people as well, in terms of like where the business, where he thinks it's growing, kind of what the next steps are. So for you guys' team, based on the structure of what you have so far and the transactions that you're doing, what is the next step for you guys?
Our next step has been expansion for a long time, and I've been pushing for it and interviewing people for it. And so we are a traditional MREA style team, which the Gary Keller's book, Millionaire Real Estate Agents. We each, our unique value proposition is that we each bring one specialty to the table, and we focus on that as our one thing. And so, for instance, Katie Silvers, our lead buyer's agent, she only works with buyers, and she would never work with a seller. And so that just has really helped. I love our model. I love that model, and it works really, really well for us. And so for a long time now, we've just been looking for somebody to expand the business outside of Bothell. And so that's been our goal, and that's exactly where we're headed, hopefully to San Francisco and then downtown Seattle too. And
then are you following kind of the traditional model where your home team specializes, but then the expansion agents can do both?
They could do both of the
buy, sell, buy, and like with this side?
Yeah. And so, right now the admin hub, myself and Sarah Trosky will handle all the admin, and the expansion agent will do buyer, seller, and then they'll probably hire showing specialists first off the bat.
Yeah. All right, makes sense. Cool. Okay, so in terms of like training and resources and books and things like that have been helpful for you, what would you recommend if someone was coming into an operations manager role? Because we've already interviewed a few on the show here, and they have not been in the business for that long. I mean, we talked to, I don't know if you know Josh Stern's team in Salt Lake, but his operations manager came from an outside industry and has been in that position for, I think, maybe, and now at this point, a year. Coming from 20 years in retail, and so we're talking about somebody running the #1 team in the state, has been in real estate for a year, so they have a lot of catching up to do. So what would you recommend besides the obvious, besides the Red Book, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent?
So for me specifically, I attend every conference that Keller Williams puts on. Jesse pays for me to go to every single conference, so I go to every family reunion, every mega camp. And then I've gone to coaching skills camp, which is one specifically to help with leadership and personal development. And I've made it a point at each of those conferences to network with people that I meet via Facebook mostly. So for one example, Adam Hergenrother's chief of staff, Hallie Warner, I met her at coaching skills camp. And through these connections, through this networking, that's where I've by far learned the most and really developed as a leader myself. And then the other conference that I've gone to outside of Keller Williams is called Behind Every Leader, and it's the EAO organization, and that's a phenomenal conference that happens multiple locations around the country, and they bring in all sorts of admin and operations staff like Michael Jordan's EA, EAs from Microsoft, Boeing, celebrity EAs from all over the place. And so I went to that last year, and that really I love perspectives outside the real estate industry because I think it can bring a lot into real estate from that. And that conference was phenomenal. And so I love that. And then I also, anything having to do with hiring, I go to. Basically, I just soak it up. So a lot of the books that we read, Simon Sinek's books I love are great. I would say for me though, networking is what has gotten me where I am today. It's why I've decided to teach my class. I've been on panels because of it. It's just, it's really about who you know and your human capital, social capital.
Yeah, love it. Yeah, it's who you know that knows that you know what you know.
Yeah.
Something like that. All right. So tell us, or remind us, I should say. So Bothell is in the north end of Seattle. So first of all, how do people send referrals to you guys, and then how do they connect with you specifically?
Oh, sure. You can send referrals to info@picketstreet.com. And then to connect with me specifically, just email me at Margaret, Margaret, @picketstreet.com. You can find us on our website too. That would be great.
Awesome.
Love to connect. Yeah.
Perfect.
Very cool. And then what's the plan for the classes, and what do you have coming up with that?
My plan is just to continue to reach out, and right now probably look to teach one down in San Francisco and the California area, and then also on the East Coast. And so I don't have a set agenda for where I want to teach. It's more about, again, who I network with and who I want to be a resource to. And so as people reach out to me, I schedule them as they come.
Perfect.
And so,
and then is that the best way to connect about the class? Is that just to connect with you personally, or is there a separate website for that?
no, just connect with me personally. Yeah.
Perfect.
That's awesome. I love that structure. Just to be able to have that control over it like that. That's cool.
Well, Kevin, you have that control, which brings me to the next point, which is the whole team building workshop and the admin workshop and stuff like that. So if folks go to our website, Elite Real Estate Systems, they can learn about the team building workshop where the mega agent can come in along with any staff and learn all the systems and stuff like that. But Kevin, we want to dive a little bit deeper on the admin side of the team building workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's ran in conjunction with our team building workshop. So if you have a rainmaker that wants to attend, they can absolutely bring their administrative members as well. And they spend the whole day with me. So the team leader is kind of off with our team leader, Jeff. And then in combination between Andy Cuney, our success manager with ERS, and myself, they'll spend a whole day with us where they'll go through everything. They'll see exactly how our flagship Omaha team is organized, what kind of systems that we choose to follow, how our admin staff is all set up. And, you can just kind of actually see me work throughout the day with all those different details. And a lot of people have gotten a lot of great value out of it. We've done this now for the past several months, and we do it once a month. It happens on a Monday, so it's really simple. You can just fly in on a Sunday, spend all Monday with us, fly out on a Tuesday if you want, or come in earlier on the weekend. And in at least about a 12-hour workshop, you'll pretty much get everything that you would need to know. Not to say that we know everything, but it's just kind of an ideas brainstorming kind of type workshop, just kind of so you can see how things are actually placed in action in our brick and mortar. So tons of different topics, a lot of good value.
Yeah, and with managing 20, what do we have to, 27 agents?
We got 25 agents, 5 admin staff, so we're hanging out about 30 people right now.
So if you want to learn how to scale that staff up, especially, and just keep it running smoothly, that's a great workshop for you guys. So check that out. That's EliteRealEstateSystems.com, and you can go to the workshops page on that. But there's one thing that we did not get into, which I wanted to, and I want to take maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get into it a little bit, and that was salary. So Margaret, there's a lot of people, and I've talked to somebody that started or was in on a market center in LA, and his complaint with the whole KWT model and stuff like that is his belief, and this is not corroborated, this is just his belief, that the cost structure of having to hire admin staff in a high salary market like a SoCal, a San Francisco, maybe a Seattle or something like that, kind of ruins or throws off the model. So what do you have to say about that in relation to like an EA's salary?
Yeah, I think a lot of agents don't even talk about it because they don't even want to look at it. It's almost too scary for them to look at or think about. But it's about doing the research first. And so if you look at the Seattle market and you can do some research and figure out what the median salary is, it's not that scary actually after you think about it. And when you think about the way your business will grow from it, it's not even an issue. And so one of the beliefs that Jesse has and we share as a team is that we really have found that we like people that will take a step down in order to go up. And so everybody that's joined the team, I came from, I was at the Seattle Art Museum before where I was making $36,000. I left for that reason because I knew there was no growth there. I went to work for my uncle's company where I was making $55,000 with insurance with the promise of making 80 to 90 in the next year. And I went back down to $36,000 to start at Picket Street because Jesse promised me by laying out a plan that he could get me to where I was before in the next 18 months. And so I have found that the best hires are the people that don't worry about whether or not they know that you're going to be fair. I knew that Jesse was going to be fair. I knew that his word was true, and that he would get me to where I wanted to be. And then it was up to me to go beyond that. And so I think all it is about laying out a plan and finding out what they want. Because for me, it's a lot more than just money. And that's part of the reason why I'm here is the mission and vision of the team. I can make as much money as I want to make. It doesn't have to be all from my salary. I bring in referrals. I own a duplex. I can do other things in order to push myself forward that doesn't require an enormously high salary for the Seattle area. So it's all about talking through it and having that difficult conversation that a lot of people don't want to have, and doing the research and finding out what the salary is, because you can get some phenomenal people if you have the right mission and vision and things around it, the culture that they want.
Gotcha. All right. Love that perspective. That's interesting.
Yeah,
Kevin, does that resonate? I mean, it's when you see people, admin staff coming into you guys, are they people that are taking a step down? Are they on the way up? What's the deal there?
Well, we've had a combination of both. Yeah. We've had people, I mean, lateral moves. One hire that we had earlier this year, transaction coordinator, took a little bit of a step down. But then within 6 months, we were able to get her back to at least where she was, with the promise of more growth up there as well. Me personally, I'm kind of a whole different story. You know, I came across Jeff when I was at my lowest point possible. So when he's like, "Oh, I'll just pay you that salary," then we already started off fair, and I could only go up from there. So I was at least happy with that.
Well, just be thankful you didn't work for Frank, who we all know and love from
Viral.
So he hired what is effectively now his EA, who is now VP of Sales, hired him for $8 an hour off of Craigslist in San Diego. That guy makes well over 6 figures a year now, but he started off at $8 an hour because the same thing. He saw the opportunity. So I love what you said, Margaret, because that really is what it comes down to. If you can lay out the plan, if you can show somebody that's an A player, look, we're going to get you where you want to go, with the potential to go much further than that if you get in on the ground floor and you start with us here at this level, and let's grow together. And that's, I mean, I'm a sucker for that. Kevin, you're a sucker for that. I think the right people are suckers for that message, because we believe we have that opportunity, that abundance mindset. If you get someone that comes in and their first question is, well, what's guaranteed?
Yeah.
You know, it's like having a football player come in and go, "Hey, what's my guaranteed contract part of my salary?" Great, let's max that part of it out. Yeah.
But when you also wrap in the other piece of it, which is culture, and if you can really create that 1-2 punch for it, I mean, then you're finding somebody who fits your culture, most importantly, in my opinion, and then the money and all that kind of stuff comes secondary from there as well. So
yeah, well said. All right, guys. Well, let's wrap this up. I encourage everyone to connect with Margaret, both through email, and you can check out the website for the team, picketstreet.com. Picket is with 2 T's. And then for us, eliterealestatesystems.com. Make sure to check out the workshops. If you're interested in partnering with any of us on expansion, reach out to us. Obviously, we've got a whole expansion page on our website where you can read about the value proposition, and you can reach out to Jeff or Kevin or any of us about that potential and talk to us about that. And then just make sure to keep an eye out for the future episodes of the Team Building Podcast. If you're not already subscribed, make sure to do that either on YouTube if you like the video version, or if you'd prefer the audio so you can just have it right here downloading automatically to your phone whenever you're on Wi-Fi, head on over to iTunes or Stitcher and subscribe to the podcast there. And with that said, guys, thanks so much, and we'll see everybody on the next episode.
All right, you bet. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you.